So we're here with Howard Dolman from Dolman Eye Care Center. And we met about 6-7 years ago when you were expanding your vision therapy. And we designed and built an office for you in Kitchener, right?
Yes.
Kitchener. And if you can give us a little opening statement on, where you are today and
Sure.
and what's going on.
Well, Frank, as you know, I practice with my wife, Dr. Kim Dolman, and we're proud that nearly 31 years of practice ownership. We weren't the founder. The founder of our clinic here in New Hamburg, Dr. Betty Fretz, 1976. So next year will be 50 years for our clinic here in New Hamburg. And but vision therapy started as a passion for us through our own youngest daughter's concussion and the struggle she had. And so after seeing through her rehabilitation and care, we thought, maybe there's room to grow in the Kitchener-Waterloo area and bring that service to the region. And so we started with a cold start here in our New Hamburg clinic, and then reached out to you to help us design and build a standalone vision therapy clinic in Kitchener.
And who looked after your daughter?
Yes,
with the therapy?
obviously, as most parents know, with a child with a concussion, there are a lot of people involved between the family doctor, neurochiropractor, different physiotherapists. We really ended up with Dr. Peter Schuring, who's a neurochiropractor in Conestoga. He was part of Sidney Crosby's concussion team, actually. That's how we found out about how much he's done in the concussion space and rehab space.
How's it been for the past 6 years? Like, has it been a steady growth?
It's been wonderful, but not without the work that goes on in the background. Again, approaching you to help us with the design and the build out and the space, and we of course go on the road and look at many different colleagues out there who have vision therapy clinics, those who have done an incredible job, including Dr. Carrie Salzberg in North York, and Dr. Patricia Fink, Dr. Angela Peddle. So visiting their centers, learning from them, learning, the late Dr. Michelle McKenzie, very good friends of ours, Vince and Michelle in Bolton, and then designing the space so that we could not only start to attract patients, through our colleagues and our own clinic, but also from the wider community.
Did you ever have a feel or that there was skepticism on what vision therapy actually provided? When dealing with the patient, they're trying to sell the parents on, listen, this is why this is happening. This is how we can help.
Yes.
It's
an education process, as you know, as our colleagues know, and I think, having been in the optometry space for as many years as we have, we were very fortunate to have a good connection to our colleagues in the region. So you build from that level of trust, and then we went and tried to bring, and then really I have to give my credit to where it's due to Kim, to build out information so our colleagues felt comfortable referring. It's a whole different concept with ophthalmology. We're still learning, how to build that level of trust. It's through experience, through sharing research with them. But when it comes to chiropractors and physiotherapists and sports medicine physicians, they recognize the value of vision therapy in a patient's journey.
Okay, so the curve is upwards.
Absolutely.
It's not plateaued or anything. It is upwards.
It's growing.
It is. People are learning. Just but like the same thing with myopia. People are learning. They're finally getting the grasp of what's happening and what's available.
Yes, and we see that in our region. I mean, our region is 600,000 people, and it's still underserviced, even with what we're doing at the edge of Kitchener-Waterloo. One of our colleagues has a vision therapy clinic at the south end of Kitchener, at the optometry school, and we're still all growing. There's still a greater demand for it.
Are you having any difficulty in hiring, like the availability for therapists and the education that's needed for them to be successful
Yes. Again, kudos to Vision Therapy Canada for building out the program for vision therapists to become certified or trained and certified. But again, it's a much smaller area of the healthcare spectrum. So not as many people are even aware that vision therapy exists, and so we don't have people searching out. Oh, I would like to be a vision therapist. So often vision therapists come to that space through their own journey. So one of our vision therapists, actually two of our vision therapists are actual former patients of ours. Mm-hmm. And one of our vision therapists is the grandparent of a former patient.
Wow. So a lot of word of mouth.
A lot of word of mouth.
It's word of mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also comes from the physiotherapy space as well. So our most senior vision therapist and patient coordinator is from the physiotherapy space. From
when you started to where you are now, what would you say your growth is like for the amount of patients that you were looking, on a monthly basis from when you started just over 6 years ago to where you are now?
Well,
on an average.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate from early on an experience here in our own primary care clinic to learn that there's value in both peer networking and on the consultant side. So we connected with Tony Bristol, a US-based consultant in the vision therapy space. And she helped us to create a business plan for our clinic and to make sure that we would grow to be able to cover the costs of a new build and a cold start. And so we were able to do that inside of 3 years, and which is difficult to do when you're a standalone vision therapy practice. And so we're proud of the fact now that we have a total of 5 vision therapists seeing patients every day. They're not all full-time, but Kim is totally maxed out as the only vision therapy doctor there 2 days a week. And so we're looking for another vision therapy doctor to come and add to that so we can grow further. So yeah, we're seeing on average, around 55 or so patients a week have vision therapy in our clinic.
Yeah, that's not a small practice.
It's a going concern.
That's a good size. Yeah, it's a good size vision therapy office.
But that has grown, like I said, since we opened the doors in that clinic in March of 2019.
Ever a regret?
Not a single regret at the top end. There are always little things that you would love to go back to and change along the way.
Yeah.
And then that's something I share with the students that I have the pleasure of talking with, the third year optometry students, that you don't know what you don't know. And so that's why you have to learn things along the way in your journey, but the more you can learn in advance better. But the space that we rented, let's say it had a few skeletons in the closet.
A few hiccups,
not literally, but it was a rough space, as you know, helping us to build that space. Yeah. Other than that, no. From the day we opened the door and welcomed our first patient, not a single regret.
Excellent. I'm really glad that it really makes me feel happy. Okay, that when I hear the success of offices that we helped, get started or get on their feet. So it's really what it's all about for us. It's not just to grow the business, is to help the industry. And that's why I'm asking you, are people aware of this? And, are they still trying to figure out, vision therapy, what concussion, do they associate the two? Right. I had to learn the hard way, because Angela Petal, I woke up one morning and I saw 2 images. Yes. I didn't dawn on me, I got hit in the head the day before and said, what was happening to me, right? And that was when I actually it took that for me to take it serious, and then to start endorsing it, and then to understand the ODs and their venture into the industry, right? Yes. So, like you said, there's learning curves. Sometimes you do need a knock in the head.
And that was right around the time. Was it just before, or just after?
It was just before
that we started practice
with you. Yeah. That I had just gone through that. It took probably a good 2-3 months. But she set me up so that I can, because I wasn't even allowed to drive.
Yeah,
it was that bad. But she set me up that I could focus enough and be able to drive. So I owe a lot to Angela.
Wow.
She's great.
She is. We owe a lot to her for what she's done.
Not just a great doctor, but like in in the therapy part, but she's just a great all-out person, you know,
and for the profession.
For the profession, 100%.
But to your point, just the little design elements we're incredibly proud of, from, you know, the large viewing window for the parents who aren't in the therapy room, but to see what their children are doing in the big room, for the quiet room, the concussion space room that doesn't have any outside windows that we can keep quiet and control the lighting levels.
The lighting, yep.
So all of the different design elements that you may not think of, but are so important, that help you to enjoy the space and be proud of the space and make it a really positive experience for your team and for the patients.
Did we put a swing in there for you?
Yeah, yes, we do.
I'm remembering correctly.
We do have a swing.
Yeah.
We attach to the metal girding in the roof. Yeah, in the ceiling.
So you guys are all equipped. Very good. The next topic I wanted to talk about is, and I didn't know, I learned from Tina Goodhue.
Dr. Goodhue,
that,
yes.
She said that you were doing the course at Waterloo for business. If we can chat a little bit about that, on what your course is about.
Sure. I'm quiet about that, but I'm proud of it as well. It was Dr. Vince Timpano of Guelph who was originally coordinating and teaching the course at the optometry school. It's a third-year class in the winter term, so it's 2 hours a week for 12 weeks, meant to be a foundation in business principles, so a practice management course. And when Dr. Timpano was ready to move on to more of his other passions, he let the School of Optometry know, and Dr. Marley Spafford and was kind enough to reach out to me. I always joke that she came to me because we live 5 minutes away from the school, so I was the closest optometrist option. But of course, I know Dr. Spafford from back when I was a student, and so through my own experience with the training that I received through I Recommend, and then through our own journey through Williams Consulting and Kleinman Performance Network and the OD Business Program at I Recommend, I felt that I was in a good place to bring a course to the students.
What just go through a couple points of
what's involved. Sure.
What's involved, yeah.
And so
it is mandatory, correct?
Yeah,
it is a mandatory course.
It's part of their curriculum.
It is part of the curriculum.
And so it's meant to be a foundation. The third year students are thinking at this time of just finishing third year and getting into their fourth year in clinic rotation. So they're not, a small percentage are, but most aren't thinking, what is my future me? What am I going to look like? What is it going to look like as a partner, as a business owner, a cold start or practice purchase? But I want them to have exposure to all of those elements and to have something to refer back to when they reach that point in their lives. So we literally step into, okay, I've graduated, now what? What does it look like as an associate? What are my options? And then what is the difference between purchasing a practice and starting a practice? And what are all of the elements involved in purchasing a practice or starting a practice? And then we go into some of the more mundane things like HR and the issues related to that, and the importance of an employee handbook and understanding all the issues of hiring and discipline and termination, and then the operations side and how to run a clinic, and then of course the exciting part, the marketing. What does it look like? Because it's transitioned even from 10 years ago when I started the course. What does marketing look like for optometrists? Yeah. It's completely changed.
Yeah.
And then the finance side, understanding compliance with CRA, GST, HRST considerations, and what financial statements look like. So it's meant to be very comprehensive, but just to give a foundation.
Okay. Do you differentiate between the retail component and the clinical component of we'll call it the business?
Sure. Where it crosses over is understanding that, as an optometrist, your clinical role, that's all guided by what you learn as being an optometrist. That's the responsibility of the license that I have. And no matter where we work as optometrists, we have the responsibility of looking after the patient. But the journey that patient has in getting to you in that exam room and the journey that they have coming out of the exam room, that's what I touch on. And so where those overlap is, okay, I'm finished with my exam and now I'm talking to my patient. What are the things that your concerns are? What are your needs? Let's talk about you now really as a consumer of those things, and then bringing the team into the exam room and transitioning that care in the exam room.
Yeah. So the retail component
Absolutely.
of the business.
Yeah. It starts from the moment you stop being a clinician, and now you're starting to make recommendations and prescribing things for your patient that then leads into the retail side.
Right. Which is really what makes the big difference between a Specsavers, a Lens Crafters, and all these, where it's very cut and dry, where you got clinic and then you got go buy your glasses, right? Where you can make the proper recommendations and you make the proper follow-ups, and you build the confidence level with the patient/customer, right? So that they are getting the best treatment that they're going to get for eyesight.
Well, and as an independent optometrist, someone who even part of a group, but not part of we talked about Specsavers and Lens Crafters, that's our responsibility as an optometrist, is to ensure that our patients have a comfortable, positive, seamless experience from being a patient to being a consumer, from the clinic side to the retail side. And that's, we don't get very much exposure to that in optometry school. So it's a really important role that I have in that course, is to help the students understand that.
Do you feel that there's curiosity?
Absolutely. I think
so. They're taking it serious. Like they do want to take this information in. So they're not just are they intrigued?
I can't speak for every individual because they're all human, and I'm sure some are saying, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to be an optometrist. I just want to be the doctor. I want everyone else to look after everything else for me. But I know that the vast majority are saying, yes, I want that patient experience to be amazing. I want people to say, I'm glad I chose that doctor and that place for my eye care for my family. And so that's the type of experience I want the students to understand, learn about, and be able to take and develop into their own passion when they graduate.
Yeah. Well, the passion's going to come automatically. I'm assuming that you're going through your years of university. That passion for being the doctor is going to be inbred, right? Yes. It's gonna be part of you when you finally graduate. The fact that your industry is really the only doctor industry that has a full-out retail component, which obviously has a huge impact on your income, on what the potential is of the office.
Yes.
During your course or through the because you're part of the university, you get to see and chat and talk to these pre-med docs get that? Is that way too far advanced for them still?
No. I think they do. I tried to explain that the recommendations we made are always in the best interest of the patient. Always. Yeah. But the success of the business of optometry allows for the success for everyone, for the doctors who work there, for the team that works there, for the patients who come to the clinic. And so helping the students understand, you have to choose your market. You have to choose where you want to be in the market. You have to understand your demographic. You have to understand the needs of your patients in the community. And then give them the services and the products and the care that make people really appreciate that you're there, that you're part of the community. And I think that most of the students understand that. And if they don't coming into the course, I hope they do leaving the course.
Okay, so they're not coming in with the thought that I got to sell this many frames in order to be successful. The doctor part is still primary, obviously, with them. Okay. So, but you do touch on the full out retail component.
Absolutely.
Right?
We touch on pricing. We touch on how to determine, your costs and looking at, you've got your fixed costs and you've got your variable costs. So I go through all of those aspects and understanding. I give them an example of what a financial statement looks like for a practice. And I give them benchmark numbers for what cost of goods are typically, occupancy costs, staffing costs, so they understand. And they understand that a successful optometry practice also has to be a successful business. Otherwise, you're just paying for your job.
That's right. Yes.
And they have to understand that that when they are paying their associates, that they have to understand, okay, as the owner, they're taking home what's left over, but they have to make sure that what's left over is at least as much as what they would be paid as an associate.
Yeah, it justifies it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know that going back a number of years ago, there was maybe there's this concept at the optometry school that they really poo-pooed retail, and I think that goes back to the very punitive laws that existed for optometry in Ontario from our college.
Yeah.
Our college made it very clear that there had to be some kind of separation, your cost of goods and your dispensing fee. But we all learned that it became very confusing for the consumer, especially when the rest of the marketplace was retail. So the best transition to happen for optometry in Ontario was to allow us to be retail and allow us to make it less confusing for our patients.
So we get out of the dispensary and go into the gallery.
Right.
Because that's what it was called. It was called the dispensary
Yes,
back then, right?
yes.
So it was so clinical. Like
Right.
it's,
Right.
now we've got a store.
We do, and because we want to give our patients an experience in our optical that would match or be better than any other optical in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. Is that when you've got the patient, and I'm a strong believer in this. Again, out of experience.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm doctor's nightmares when it comes to refraction and keeping me happy, but it really is. It's your job to make sure that when the patient comes to you and leaves as a customer,
Yes.
that you've done everything you possibly can. Now, you can't force them to buy anything from you. You can't force them to buy Zeiss. You can't force them to buy Schmier or whatever.
Right.
But you do everything in your power to make all the proper recommendations so when they leave that door,
Yes.
that their vision is as good as it's going to be at what's available to them at the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So,
Well, they're choosing us because they trust, and as a new patient, of course, you have to build that trust. But to be able to maintain that trust, we decided for ourselves to choose a place in the marketplace that would be like the iconic customer service places in the marketplace. I mean, the landscape has changed quite a bit since Kim and I purchased the practice from the founder back in 1994. There's a story where a guy takes his tires, to the department store and says, "I want my money back." And
not Zach's. Are you talking about Zach's?
no, I'm talking about. Anyway,
We're having one of these brain farts.
this is what happens when you get older. The bottom line is that they don't sell tires at the department store,
Right.
and but they gave him his money back.
Wow.
Because the former store, before they took over that place, that
Right.
footprint, was a tire store. And that iconic story about going above and beyond of looking after your customer, looking after your patient. So I tell my team, it does not matter why the patient is unhappy. There are going to be a few people who take advantage of us for that, but by and large, I look at that not as a cost of goods. I look at as a marketing expense. These are dollars that I'm investing to let people know that we're going to look after them.
Yeah. Going back to the students, do they feel like? Do they ever come back to you? Like,
They do.
You've been doing this for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you get feedback from them saying, "You know what? I remembered what you said to me,
Yes.
and I did this, but it works," or whatever. Like, do you get feedback on the success of the course?
I do, thankfully. Not a lot, but occasionally at a conference or symposium, then some of the newer grads will come up and say, "Oh, I bought my first practice," or "I'm doing a cold start, and now I understand and appreciate better all of the materials that you went through in that course. And I'm so glad that you can go back and review the concepts, review the materials." Or I'll have students reach out or new grads reach out and say, "I'm signing my first contract," or "I'm looking at this opportunity. Would you take a look at it for me?" And sometimes I'll look at it, and sometimes I'll recommend a colleague, or I'll recommend another professional. Say, "Look, you need a lawyer here, or you need Frank, or you need someone else to take a look at this, because this is out of my area of expertise."
I'm going to teach you this in third year.
Yes.
But it might be 5 years from now before you actually going to need this information, or you're going to take this information serious.
Right.
For the absorption, the way that they're taking it in, what do you feel that it's beneficial? Like, is it being taken? Is it being soaked in there?
I believe that it is, but I've also taken the opportunity to regularly not only update the content, but also look at different ways of trying to connect with the students.
Mm-hmm.
And something I'm thinking about for next year, I've talked to a friend of mine who is a professor in engineering, and he's won a number of different teaching awards. And so I'm looking at the concept of giving the students the content and the material all pre-recorded, and then taking the time each week to just sit around the room, or virtually sit around the room, and talk about the material, answer their questions, just understand their curiosity, maybe prompt some things that they might not be thinking about. So spending a little less time presenting and discussing the material, and more time expanding on the material and talking about the concepts.
So less theory, more hands-on.
Sure, because right now it's a blend.
Now it's a blend.
It's a blend of, I always bring to light experiences that I've had, or our colleagues have had in every area that I talk about, because otherwise they could read a textbook. And why have the course?
Yeah.
But maybe taking it to another level, and giving the students more of a fireside chat time, with them each week, so that they feel more connected to the course than just, okay, I'm attending because Dr. Dolman's going to speak for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah. So an open discussion.
Absolutely.
Which will help
Sure.
sink in more. So yeah.
Because most of these students, if not all of them, have already worked in optometry practices as students, as optometry students, or even before applying. And so they've seen, the HR dynamics. They've seen the practice management things happen, even though they don't recognize necessarily what's going on under the surface. And so when I say to them, "Oh, have you ever seen this go on between staff, or a patient who's been unhappy about this?" a lot of them, will nod their head and say yes. So bringing more of those stories from their experience as well.
When they're in university, not just because I'm going to be a doctor, but the fact that I'm going to be providing a service, that the demand for it is going through the roof. Does that come up when you're talking about the business course, like on how how it's going to
Sure.
affect their decision on how they want to evolve their education, and to what point they're going to take it to as soon as they leave?
Yes.
They leave with their diploma.
Yes. Well, there is the full spectrum, from the I just want to be an optometrist in the exam room and I don't want to worry about everything else, to the person who already comes up to me and says, "I've talked to my family and this is something I want to do as soon as I'm ready, or the opportunity comes up. I want to be a practice owner." And I think statistics show that half, or a little more than half, of optometrists practicing in Canada either own their own practice outright, or are part owners of a practice. So it is at least 50% or more.
So it's a
of
high
licensed
number.
optometrists.
It's a high number. It's not a small number.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. And so, these are the students who are really engaged. But I also want to speak to the middle ground, who are maybe a little intimidated and say, "Oh, I don't know if I could do this. I'm going to have student debt. I'm going to have other issues. I want a life." And so I draw inspiration and share with them from our own experience, but also experiences of our colleagues well across Canada who found a way to be practice owners, have a family, and be successful. And I tell them, not to be intimidated, because there's an incredible amount of support there on all avenues, from design support to funding support, through banking programs, to optometry business support, through I'm sure I'm biased here, but I'll talk about I Recommend, because we've been part of I Recommend now for about 17 years or so. But there are other groups out there as well who are there to protect independent optometry and provide support at all stages of practice life, from cold start or purchase, growth, development, maturing, or transitioning. And I say, don't be intimidated. Take the interest you have, and there are people out there who will help support that.
Do you feel that they get intimidated when they keep hearing? Okay, they hear about the Warby Parkers, and they hear about the Specsavers and the Lensaticas and these big corporate monsters, saying, how do we possibly? Aren't we way behind? Like, maybe 20 years ago this could have worked for us, but. Right. How are we going to be able to compete, or how do we, is that a discussion ever?
It is. And if you had asked me 5 years ago, before Specsavers came to Canada and in the early days of, Bailey Nelson, and I was a little more concerned and cautious, but to see how our profession has risen to the occasion, how the different organizations supporting independent optometry have risen to the occasion. The support we have is now better than ever. And I think the biggest intimidation for the students is just it's so much more expensive, not in Canada and the US, to become an optometrist. So students are graduating with a tremendous amount of debt. And that makes it very it's intimidating to say, okay, how can I handle this debt and be a practice owner?
Yeah. Which then, we get some of the docs, like you said, that they're out of university, but they've got financial support, whether it's a relative or a parent or something, and they do cold starts, right there and then.
Absolutely.
So they've got that fire inside that they want to start. But so with the intimidation, like, is it getting worse right now? Like, I know also that some get a little bit of side help, right, from these big organizations, and they kind of get lured for commitments, whether it's a year or hours or whatever, 2 years. Is that something else that is talked about in your course?
It is a little bit. I mean, those organizations are approaching those students directly.
Yes.
And
but there must be talk. There must be talk, so that you kind of hear who's leaning towards what, and what are they offering, and almost like a bargaining table here.
And I respect the role that I have as a lecturer of that course, and then I take my I Recommend hat off, and I do introduce as best as I can, impartially, the different sort of opportunities that are out there, fully corporate, partially corporate, independently owned in a group, or just fully independent but part of a group. And we talk a little bit about, from my perspective, what the pros and cons are, as impartially as I can, because that's as the lecturer, it's critical that I do that. But again, I go back to the point that when Kim and I purchased the practice from the founder, Dr. Betty Fretz, it had been in place more than 15 years. It was part of a multi-location, multi-doctor group practice. Now, we only bought one location, but it was 18 years. It was multi-doctor. We didn't have any money. We owed money, but between a government-backed small business loan and the owner of the practice financing the rest of it, we 100% financed the purchase of the practice. And we had a baby. and then we needed help. And so that's why I tell the students, learn from our experience. look into the help before you make those commitments. Put the help in place, have the business plan, have the financing, have the different pieces in place so that you go in saying, okay, best case scenario is this, worst case scenario is here, we're going to make this work.
So you give the students live examples
Yes.
of actual,
Yes.
successes and failures of
Yes.
on do's and don'ts.
We learned from ourselves when we did the cold start of the vision therapy practice. We still had things to learn because you can't learn everything, even yourself. And so we learned how important it is to have people on your team who are working for you. When you're looking for a space, have a real estate broker that is working for you. When you're negotiating with a landlord, have someone who's working for you. Because those are the most challenging aspects that we really don't know much about.
Yeah, which is completely outside your realm, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. My concern with the students is that like they're coming into a market that really is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
If dealt correctly,
Yes.
it's limitless. Because these monster corporations like Luxottica, VSP,
In the States, yes.
okay, they run like 90% of the entire industry, right? So there's very small pieces of pie left out there.
In the U.S., absolutely.
In the U.S., 100%.
Yes, they're probably 5 to 10 years ahead of us
Yeah.
on those aspects. Yeah.
My concern is like when you're trying to explain to a student on this part of the business now, right? Because it's easy just to get a job. I'm a doctor.
Yes.
I put in my hours or my days. I go home. I don't worry about nothing else, right? I'm not worrying about, am I going to make my mortgage payment? Am I going to make my rent payment? My frame rep is asking everybody. Everyone's on my
Yes.
back, and now I can't even focus on my patient because all this is happening
Yes.
behind here.
That's my world.
That's yeah, we're 60 plus, so we've kind of learned to.
Yes.
It's trying to get the next generation
Yes.
to see basically the whole picture or view the whole picture so that they have a right projection
Yes.
on how they want. Joe Hoya made a really
Yes.
great comment, is that he loves doing what he could retire anytime he wants,
Yes.
but he loves doing what he does.
Yes.
And it shows. His staff is just second. Like you can see
Yes.
the environment there, the energy level, everything is just as perfect as you, knock on wood, as perfect as you possibly would want in any kind of business.
Yes.
And with the young grads, the fact that you've got this monster entity out there that is so intimidating, how do they put two and two together? Like, how do they? How have you got feedback from them on how they see it in their generation compared to how me and you see it?
Sure. That's a good question, and it means I have to listen and I have to ask a lot of questions and learn from the students, and I try my best every year to reflect on that, remember that, and do that.
So that you're speaking
Absolutely.
their language,
Absolutely.
which will sink in a lot more.
Yes,
and
yes.
again, especially because then it's going to take a while before that
Right.
comes to play.
Right.
So we want to get that embedded as much
Right.
as possible. Yes.
I mean, I can't speak to their fears unless I know what their fears are. I can't address their concerns without knowing
Is that
what-
okay with the light?
what the concerns.
Yeah.
What their concerns are.
Okay.
Well, it's okay. This building used to be a chicken egg grading station.
Okay.
So we say there are ghosts of the chickens in the building.
So someone's
That's
someone's pecking at your light.
That's a side story. But to the comment you made, I want to reflect on two things. The first is I talk about culture. I talk about team culture and building culture and how important it is. You reflected on Dr. Hoya's culture. I mean, that is probably at the top of importance for a successful practice, because your patient, your customer, the consumer is spending more time with your team than it is with you in the exam room.
Right.
And so, and people feel that when they walk through the door. If everyone's smiling and laughing and they're joking with each other in a professional way, and they're working with patients and the handoff, everything flows seamlessly. We're very proud of the fact in here where people say often, what a well-oiled machine you have, that everything seems to work. There's a lot going on. It's very busy, but it's all happening in what seems like a very well-flowing manner. Seamless. And that doesn't happen by accident. And I talk to the students about that. It takes a lot of preparation, it takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of fostering. And so we're taking our team to Halifax this weekend for a conference, and I recommend conference, and that's something they earned as a reward of the hard work and effort they put in going back to last fall, that we put away a little bit of bonus money each time we met certain goals, so they got a little bit more in their paycheck, a little bit toward a travel fund, and now we're all going to Halifax for the next conference. And so building culture is so important, and I do spend a lot of time talking to the students about that. But going back to what you mentioned about the corporations out there, and that reminded me about managed care. And I introduce, again, the concept of managed care, because that's what VSP is, right, and in the States. And we already have managed care in Canada. It's called OHIP. OHIP tells us what tests we have to do, mm-hmm, for any patient and what we get paid to do those tests. And there's no negotiating, at least not very often, right, and not until recently. And that's 70% of our patients. Every clinic is different, but that's 70% of the eye exams we do are managed by OHIP. And so if we then take the other 30% and capitulate and say, oh, okay, insurance industry, here you go. Now you're controlling the other 30%. Then the threat of that was really what was concerning 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I think that our profession is in a much better place now. The threat hasn't gone away, but we're in a better place to address that risk.
Just off the topic, so we might use this or we might not.
Yes.
Does scope ever come into play?
In the course?
In the course, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like for future scope, and what over and above the fact that this is what I've taught to the yes, slit lamp and everything, and what your primary care is. I'm sorry. What do you speak about again for future, yes, on for scope, and again for them to be keeping an open mind because on how fast this industry is changing?
Yes. Well, I talk about it in the way that again I've learned from peers of mine, that we have to look at each aspect of our practice as its own business. We look at the eye exams we provide as a business. We look at the optical we provide as a business. And then we need to look at the contact lens services as a business. And with respect to scope expansion, we look at vision therapy as a business. We even under our roof or separately. We look at myopia management as a business, dry eye therapy as a business, and that way you can. I talk about this in the course. How do I build a specialty practice, either on within my practice or outside of the practice? So we talk about that. We talk about what are the steps that it takes in order to build these things. And again, part of it is a business plan, understanding what the costs are. How do I get trained as an optometrist? How does my team get trained? How do I build pricing in? How do I create the space to be successful once those tools are in place? And then making it work and having a program for our patients. And so we talk about that as part of the course.
What, if you're speaking about the different scopes, what feedback are you getting from the students on what piques their interest the most?
Yes.
Is it just the primary care still, or are they looking into these specialty programs?
I think the vast majority are excited about the fact that optometry provides such
the
opportunity.
Doorway.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's what's going to allow them to have a very fulfilling career because it isn't just the way it was. When I entered optometry school back in 1986, we were just given the opportunity to put drops in the eyes. Heaven forbid we might kill somebody by dilating their pupils. And so we've come a long way in those 40 years to the point where now we're truly looking after the person, and we're a very important role in the healthcare space.
So they see the opportunity.
They see
the multitude of opportunities that are available to them because of the doorway of optometry.
And that the profession is exciting and is going to continue to evolve over their career, over the next 30 years for them. Yes, and you reflected on Dr. Hoya's passion, and that's what the same thing that drives me is being the CEO of the practice, and Kim really keeps me grounded, and she's also incredibly detail oriented. She remembers the conversations that we have and the details, and she's got incredible eye for design that she can work with you and build all those wonderful things in Kitchener and put them into place here. And when we look to expand or create the next space for Dolman Eye Care in New Hamburg, I have a wonderful partner, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to mention that because you can't do it alone. And I reflect on that often, whether it doesn't have to be your wife, but to have a business partner, to have a design partner, to have a finance partner, to have a professional development partner. That's what's exciting about optometry. We don't do it alone.
When I heard that you were doing the course, I was a little shocked, okay, because we've known each other, and even before we did the work for you, I did not know that you were doing the course. But what an excellent opportunity to mold, because again, there's always the clinical part, right? There's the clinical part. Right? They have the doctors, the optometrists have to understand right from the get-go that it's not just diagnostics that you're diving into, and unless you're that 5% or that 3% is what
it's important that they have built a strong foundation in clinical care.
Which is a given, right? But the fact that the expansion is so limitless, and that the fact that, like I said, your industry is so demanding and evolving and changing so often, we've seen it in the past 15, 20 years. Just is there anything that, like something that is coming up that you know of that we're going to be implementing at Waterloo that for, again, towards the business? That is there anything else that they're looking at right now that you know of?
I can't speak, for Dr. Wu, who's the outgoing director of the school, or Dr. Ben Thompson, who's the new director. But I know from my discussions, with the two of them, the Waterloo Eye Institute that's being built right now. I'm incredibly excited for the next generation of optometrists to be able to be educated in Waterloo and have an opportunity for that experience. And I think they will gain better exposure to all of those areas of care that optometrists have. And the biggest area I think that they can expand on is how we partner with ophthalmology. Truly, that's the next biggest area is how do we partner, and there's interest from ophthalmology to foster and develop that partnership. I'll reflect on our own youngest daughter, who spent the last year working at one of the local large ophthalmology clinics in Kitchener, and they've developed something in-house in their clinic where they have optometrists who are there and doing care for patients at the ophthalmology clinic. But that's going to then have something for the students to be exposed to at the Waterloo Eye Institute as part of their training,
which would involve scope.
Which it's scary for ophthalmology, obviously, as we understand. It goes both ways. We look at opticianry, and they're looking at expanding scope of practice, and we have to understand that we can't, look forward and not reflect back. But it's very exciting right now.
Well, they're going to have to delegate.
Yes.
They're going to have to delegate. The demand is growing.
Yes.
You're only putting out so many of ODs and so many of ophthalmology.
Yes.
The services, like, there's a demand. Yeah.
Yes.
And someone's got to open their eyes to this, that
Yes.
you can't be on such a huge waiting list. Especially here as Canadians, that we expect. Everyone, when we're talking about our medical, we got the state of the art medical. Okay, let's prove it that we have state of the art medical here, right? So there has to be a little bit of give on both ends, so that we can evolve this next chapter and service the
Yes.
patient.
Yes. And so the mantra in Waterloo has been, education first. And so even going back to, when I was in optometry school and educating us on the therapeutic side so that we would be ready when optometrists could prescribe, can treat glaucoma, can treat inflammation, can treat allergy and infection. And now, looking forward and being able to take even better care of our patients. And so the education that's going on now in optometry schools across North America is incredible. And then they're going to look back on the ODs that are practicing now and bring us, up to speed on everything. And so that'll
That's very
serve us well.
exciting. Very exciting news.
Incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
And so kudos to the Optometry School in Waterloo for offering these courses in laser, in lumps and bumps, and being able to treat these things, take care of our patients, so that the legislation will just be a natural advancement.
It'll be the next step.
It will.
Yeah. So that they're taking the initiative
Yes.
to get the ball rolling.
Yes.
And something that's been very, very hard to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. Unless there's any other thing that you'd like to
thank you,
bring
Frank.
us. Yeah,
Thank you for
I
the
wanted to get
invitation.
your take on what's
Yes.
happening at
Yes.
the school level. Okay,
Yeah.
I love seeing your practice here. That you're not going very successful, and obviously it's because you provide the ultimate service, right, to your clientele, and when you have this success, it rubs off on your students too, because you can speak
Yes.
out of experience. Right?
Well, you mentioned molding, but really I look at it as pulling back the curtain. It's a big unknown for the students going into optometry. Often it's a big unknown, like, what is optometry? What is the profession? What are we going to be learning, and what are we going to be able to do? Because literally from applying to optometry school to graduating, the profession is changing. It's changing that quickly. And so I want to do the same thing with the practice of optometry, pull back the curtain, give them an exposure to the evolving nature of being part of a very exciting side of optometry, which is having a role in that patient journey and the patient experience, and to be very thankful to give that have a role in that.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to get your take on this, and hopefully within the next couple of years we're still around, and we can have another chat and see how
Absolutely.
how things are evolving with the scope and what's happening with the university.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Call
Thank
it.
you, Frank.
All right.
Thank you.